Dawn, it's great to have you back on the show. It doesn't feel like it's been too long since we chatted, but hey, any excuse I have to have you back is always a pleasure.
Well, we're so excited for you to have the excuse to have us back, Paul. Thank you so much
You're welcome.
for letting us come back around, even though it hasn't been that long since we were here before.
See, now what the listeners don't realize, or maybe they do, is that typically what most bands do is they'll release an album, and then they'll be like, okay, so the band will say, this is the first single off this album, this is the second single, this is the third single, this is the fourth single, and usually what happens is by the time the fourth single rolls around, everybody's like, yes, but I've heard this song a lot because I own the record, but it is nice to hear it on the radio, and so then it always feels like single after single within an album's lifespan doesn't have as much steam as the first one, but you guys have totally mitigated all of that by just saying, you know what, we're just going to release a single at a time, and so every time it's new, which is kind of cool.
Man, Paul, these are all really great points. We absolutely have not thought it through this far, but you're so right. We have just stumbled onto a gold mine here.
Oh, man. And of course, so for those people who don't know, August 3rd, you guys dropped this brand new single. It's called Die Free. I wanted to say Live Free, but that's not Live Free, Die Hard. Yeah, it's called Die Free. We're not going into the Die Hard franchise. And it features Kevin Young from Disciple. And this one, to my ears, and maybe I'm just forgetting a song in your back catalog, but this feels like it might be the heaviest song you guys have ever done.
You know, I think you might be right. I also might have to go back to our catalog. We've been around for so long, since we're like 100 years old in band years. But yeah, I think you're right. I think this might be the hardest Fireflight song to be released on a professional level.
Oh, wait. Now you're going to have to qualify that. What do we mean by on a professional level?
I'm trying to think, because we did have a CD that we released on our own. It was actually called Glam Rock. It was not glam rock music. We named it that way as a joke because at the time we were young, and for some reason having a name of a CD that was actually kind of like a joke seemed like a great idea.
Of course.
But, you know, in hindsight, what were we thinking? But anyways, I'm trying to think if any of those songs were harder than this one. I don't think they were, though. Okay. So I think this one probably does take ache. I don't have a copy of that first CD on purpose so that I'll never accidentally hear any of that terrible music that we made first. But I think this one still takes a cake.
Okay. Man, you were so lucky, too, because I was so about to say yes. And it's coming up later on in the show, we're going to hear a track from Glam Rock.
Oh, what a nightmare that would be.
I'm sure it's not as bad as you think it is. But at the same time, I must admit to a certain amount of curiosity when it comes to this revelation.
Well, I think in the history of any band, you know, because if you start from nothing and you work your way up into something, invariably the very first things that you do are going to be very poor in quality. And so we actually had friends who had like recording studios and stuff. And usually when you're at that level, you don't have the resources it takes to create something to be released, which is such a wonderful protection for yourself.
Right.
But unfortunately, we were not protected in that way. And we had the ability to release, and so we did. And so somewhere there's a record of our shame.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, so yes. So now my eyes are going to be like doubly wide open for every thrift store that I go into looking for somebody.
You can probably find it on eBay for like $100 or something.
Oh, my goodness.
You're trading them on the black market.
So if you're listening to this and you have a copy of that, hit me up, paul@thechristianrock20.com.
Please don't.
Oh,
Have
man.
mercy.
Well, we'll move on from that. I don't want to torture you too much. But with this new song, I kind of read just a little bit about it, and it seems like kind of the point behind it was kind of taking on the idea of being obsessed with either stuff or entertainment or the things that can often distract us from what's really important. Would you like to expound on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a nutshell, especially here in the United States of America, where we're so blessed beyond measure, past the point of us even understanding, you know, what we have, it can be really easy to become really mostly concerned with our own comfort, our own entertainment, our own possessions, and they really become the priority in our life. And most of the decisions that we make are aimed at, you know, providing the most comfortable situation for ourselves. And then secondary, we think of how we can help somebody else or, you know, and we feel really proud of ourselves if we do help someone else. And at the same time, all of the things that we're consuming in mass quantities and the entertainment and everything, the vast majority of it has a lot of negative messages in it. And it really kind of cultivates this feeling that, you know, we have to own and be entertained and all of these things in order to feel good about ourselves even. And it becomes this obsession And I think it consumes us all. We all become infected by it to some degree. And it is, I mean, it's the world we live in, and we have to function and cope in it. We can't just go lock ourselves in some cabin on a mountain. But at the same time, we have to be on the lookout for ways that it's kind of infiltrating our mind. And now we worship the American dream instead of, God's love and putting that first, no matter what the circumstances. So it's kind of one of those, it's a little cheeky, this song, and it's really edgy.
Yeah.
Very edgy, probably the edgiest song that we've ever written. And it's our greatest heart that people will hear it for what it is. And that's just a call to action to rise above all the things that the world is telling us are the most important things that we need to obsess about, and see God's truth in everything, and no longer be distracted, but instead live for him.
Okay. Now, you had mentioned it being kind of like the edgiest song, and I'm assuming that you're talking about lyrical content as maybe even more so than it being heavy. Is there any one concern that you guys have that stuck out above the other as to what maybe people either might misinterpret or might be, I guess, irritated by in some sort of way? I mean, because, most things are edgy. I mean, there's some sense of like, well, this is going to hit some people the wrong way.
Yeah.
Was there any particular part of that stuck out more than the other?
I guess it's just, I think there's a couple of lines, to be honest with you. But the reason why we talked the way we did was because we felt like it's just reality, it's the life that we're living right now. I mean, we talk about there's a line that says indoctrinated with religion of sex.
Right.
And that's pretty edgy for Christian music.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard anything like that in Christian music before. And so, and a lot of people really work hard to shield themselves and their families and all that kind of stuff from, to a certain degree and all that stuff. And we totally support that. But at the same time, I feel like, to live, to be alive right now is to be challenged and to always be bombarded. And so I think we have to begin to build up our strength, instead of, we can't always just turn away and hide and not be impacted. We just can't, so,
right.
Especially, as it's widely known, sex sells. And so there's so much in the media at every turn where we don't even notice it anymore, where it's just sinking into the fiber of everything that we see. Sure. And it's created all of these mindsets in all of us. And, there's just become, sexualization of people and, of women, of men, in every aspect. And now it's become, something where it's part of our culture. Sure. And that can be a really ugly thing because it's such a powerful thing, because right. God made a powerful thing to be something beautiful, and the enemy will always twist it and try to use that power against us. And I think that's what's happening now. And so we wanted to confront these intense subjects because we just feel like that's the reality we're all living in, and we can't hide from it. And if we try to, it will find us, and then we'll be alone and powerless. So
sure.
So that's why we decided to breach these topics. And I think, we're getting up there in our years as far as the band is. And, just like old people, they stop, they say what they want to say, because they're just like, whatever, I'm old, I'm tired. I'm going to say what I want to say. And we're not elderly by any stretch of the term, but I think you can kind of get the gist of what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not new to this. This isn't something that is new to your wheelhouse for sure. Now, kind of going back to that idea of just kind of the sexualization of everything. I mean, I'm going to try to say this in a way that doesn't seem like I'm trying to be intentionally provocative, because I'm really not.
Yeah.
But it seems like you might even have kind of a unique perspective on that, because I think that especially female entertainers, whether they're in the Christian industry or not, they always kind of have that they have to deal with, because there's that weird fine line of being fashionable but without being perceived as some sort of a sex object and all that sort of stuff that is rather difficult, because you want to make everybody happy, but at the same time, you have your own standards that you want to uphold. You have God's standards you want to uphold. And then there's everybody else who has varying degrees of acceptance towards whatever. Has that been a weird line to have to walk in your line of being a front woman for a band?
in some ways, yes and no. I think we're so thankful to have been in the Christian music industry, and in some ways, a lot of ways sheltered.
Sure.
I can't imagine what it would be like to be a young woman who wanted to be a singer and to, be able to try to move towards, a music career where she could be moderately successful, and basically handed a dress code that involved her just objectifying herself.
Right.
And we see so much, with the Me Too movement and everything, that, well, so many things being revealed. We see what the women who worked in the entertainment industry had to deal with on a regular basis. And it's so sad. So sad. And so I'm so thankful that we have been shielded a good bit from that, and not had to fight a lot of those pressures at all, because when we were on Provident, we had a Christian label, and they were pushing, and we were always very concerned with modesty, because we knew that when we stepped up there on stage that there were little girls going to be looking up at us, and there were so very few mentors and role models for them that were sending positive messages, and pointing to them to value themselves on something other than their physical appearance, whether it just be a pretty face or provocativeness.
Right.
So we were always very conscious of that. Now, at the same time, like you said, anytime you step on stage, you're going to be scrutinized. And we did have, even in I can remember one time Wendy, she decided to wear like a cool skirt on stage, and she wore jeans underneath it. I think they were black jeans,
right?
Because we're up on stage and we're very aware of the fact that we're on an elevated, platform, but I don't know, from whatever distance it was from the crowd or whatever, somebody, saw the fact that she was wearing a skirt, and boy, they wrote in a really scathing remarks that, they thought it was so inappropriate that she would wear a skirt, because it was like a mid-thigh level skirt, but granted, she had pants on underneath it, full like pants to her ankles. But man, they reamed her out about it, so you can sometimes, you do see that it's hard to please everybody, and you just can't please everybody.
No.
And but it does, it can be kind of a tough road to walk sometimes. But I think no matter what you do in life, that's always going to be the case.
True. I hear that. And not only did Kevin do guest vocals on it, but then of course you had a couple of other Disciple members lend a hand in this as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we've been so blessed. These last two singles that we've done, we've worked with, for anybody who knows Disciple, loves Disciple, and follows them in a cult-like fashion, and they know all the guys in there, and a couple of the guys, and Josiah and Joey. Josiah actually has helped us to produce, and he was a co-writer too. We got together with Josiah to work, and he helped produce and worked on the writing as well, together with us, of these two songs that we've released this year. And so that's been super fun, and we're getting to do some shows now with them, and getting to bring. And then Joey, who plays drums, he did drums on the album as well. On the song. Sorry, so used to that album. Shut up. And then so we're going to be doing some shows with the guys, which is going to be super fun, because we're going to get to haul Josiah over and haul Joey over as well, which makes it a lot of fun. So we're super excited to get reconnected with those guys, because it's been we did our very first tours with them, and they, it was so amazing, so long ago when we first started. So it's so neat to be kind of having a reunion with them these days.
Sure thing. As a matter of fact, I think I've told you this before, but I think the one and only time I've gotten to see you guys was when you opened for Disciple at the Door in Dallas. So yeah,
wow,
I can definitely
that was a fun show.
Yeah, that was a great show.
All I remember is that the walls were sweating. It was so hot and so packed.
It's really sad that that's a sign of a good show, but yes.
Yeah, your extreme discomfort is directly proportional to how epic a show is.
That's right.
Especially if you're on stage.
Oh man, that's great. So you were saying that they are gonna play out with you guys when you guys do play some shows in the future?
Yeah, well, it just so happens that a couple of shows that we have this year, they're going to be playing them too. So nice. We're like, hey guys, would you mind?
Since you guys know the songs and everything.
You're going to be in the neighborhood. Yeah, so they're so great. They're awesome guys, and they've been
cool.
Such a blessing to have them as a resource.
Very true. Very true. Very true. And it's a great song. I mean, I've gotten to listen to it a few times, and I gotta say, I mean, it's heavy, it's got a cool crunch to it, and yet at the same, I mean, it's not to say that you guys have never released stuff that was heavy or had some good guitars on it, but this feels like it's got a different kind of flavor to it, which I think is very fun and a little different. And I think it still feels like Fireflight, though. I think that's what
Awesome. Thank
every
you.
fan always worries about. Is like, well, they're trying something different, but will it still sound like them?
Yeah, totally.
So-
Everybody wants something new, but they don't want it to change either.
Right.
So they
Make
don't
it
want-
entirely different,
not
but still
too
kind of
new.
the same.
Something new, but not too new. Like if you could rewrite the other songs with just slightly different words.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh man, well that's cool, and I hope that it does well because it's, like I said, it's a fantastic track. We're excited to get to play it. So, what are the plans looking ahead? I mean, you've got 2 singles under your belt that have come out since the last full length record that you guys did, and that's awesome. I mean, I would be totally fine with you guys just continuing down this route because I think it's kind of fun to get kind of a taste of something new and different every now and again, and it not feel like to me it's kind of like that delayed gratification kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like when you get a late Christmas present, you're like, ooh, it's still Christmas. It's January, but cool.
Hey, it's not over.
Right, exactly. So I'm all about that. But what are the plans for the future at this point, aside from the shows that you had mentioned?
Well, I think we are going to keep on doing the singles model here, where
Okay.
we've got other stuff, that we've been working on and everything, and I think we'll probably just keep continuing to write more songs and releasing them from time to time. I personally am about to do a release for a worship album that I'm working on, which is exciting. We're gonna have a big announcement coming up at the next Fireflight show, actually.
Nice.
I'm really busy working on that, and then we'll just keep on working on just hammering out some new tunes for Fireflight. For our faithful fans, we're so thankful for them, and we're so happy to be in a place where we can release more music, to them. And we'd like to possibly take on more shows next year. Maybe not any full length tours or anything, but more spot dates and things like that, festivals. Sure. And so I think we're moving into a season where we're down with a little bit more travel. So anyhow, we're just going to be kind of looking forward to that and seeing how God grows things.
There you go. I like it. Very cool. Very cool. Well, last time you were on the show, I put you on the spot and I made you tell me the most un-rock and roll thing about your husband, Matt Lott. And it was a lot of fun because then we put Matt on the spot and he just totally dug himself into a hole the entire time. He said basically nothing bad about you at all, which was quite sweet. But since last time you had to kind of rat on Matt, which was quite awesome. This time I'm going to let you talk about yourself. What would you say at this point in your career is the most un-rock and roll thing about you?
The most un-rock and roll thing about me. Let's see. I feel like there's a lot of options. I actually am I really love to create, and I don't mind if I just carry that over into really practical applications.
Sure.
And so some of the less rock and roll things about me that some people might think are less rock and roll is that I am a proficient knitter.
Okay.
I'm very good at knitting, and I enjoy making an afghan here and there, especially baby blankets, things like this.
Very nice.
And also, I'm also a proficient cake baker and decorator.
Okay.
I like to make big fancy cakes and decorate them. I just made a big one, like a 3-tiered cake for my friend who was having a big mermaid party. And so I did a whole beach theme with mermaid scales and all sorts of stuff like that.
Nice.
On a giant cake. And mostly because I like to eat cake a lot. And I'm picky. I like to pick out my own flavors and stuff like that. So I like to make it myself.
There you go. Well, see, my mom decorated wedding cakes when I was growing up. So there was many
cool.
a bouncy ball that ended up in a wedding cake by accident.
Man.
So yeah, I can appreciate the time and effort that goes into that. That's pretty cool. I like that. That's awesome. Maybe not rock and roll, but that's okay because, if you enjoy it and it works for you, then that's all that matters, right?
Yes. I think being creative has all sorts of outlets.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Dawn, thank you so much again for hanging out with us. I'm glad to be able to catch up with you and super excited about the new song and kind of that you guys are getting to play some dates and whatnot and look forward to hearing the worship project and hope that everything just continues to poke along at whatever pace you guys need it to. And of course, enjoy family life as well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we just covet your support. Thank you for all that you do to help get the word out about us and support our ministry. And we pray that God blesses you and all that you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much.